Hello again. Alright, so when I left off, I was talking about whether or not, well, which weapons should be regulated and which should not. And I went over the more obvious stuff like destructive weapons, landmines, grenade launchers, so forth. And I established a basic rule for determining what weapons civilians should have and should not have, which is based on weapons that have practical purposes but do not pose a particularly severe threat to the general population. So I'm going to have to do several videos on each one, starting with, going over handgun regulation, rifle regulation, ammunition, accessories, suppressors, fully automatic fire, magazine capacity, all those little factors. And for the first video, I wanted to start with the easiest issue to discuss and debunk really in terms of gun control, and that is weapons accessories, which is stuff like forward pistol grips, regular pistol grips, collapsible stocks, so on and so forth, which are the primary accessories that are addressed by most assault weapons bans, by the 1994 assault weapons ban and the proposed 2013 assault weapons ban by Senator Dianne Feinstein. So what's the ban actually regulate? Well, the ban defines certain features as assault features, and if a weapon has them, it becomes an assault weapon and therefore should be banned or regulated. So I want to go over those features one by one and explain them. Now, I live in California, which, by the way, is Senator Feinstein's state, so of course in California these features are already banned, to a degree. They're not as regulated as the federal assault weapons ban would propose. I can have one of the features at any time, but I can't have two. So my rifle here, the SKS, does not have any of them, but I'm going to use the weapon as an example to explain what the features are for and why they should not be banned. So to start with, the pistol grip, which is one of the most common features regulated, particularly in Feinstein's legislature. What is the purpose of a pistol grip? You can see here, this stock does not have a pistol grip. You just hold it here. The pistol grip will be located down here, so I can hold the trigger like this. So what is the purpose of a pistol grip? Why do so many rifles have them? There's two reasons. The first off is comfort. And the thing is, remember, these are features that were originally designed for military use. Now, apparently many gun control advocates, including Senator Feinstein, want to ban these because they were on use in military rifles, and they assume that if a military rifle uses them, that makes the rifle more dangerous. But that is not actually the case. The vast majority of accessories in the military do not have any effect on the functionality of the rifle, including the pistol grip. They exist for comfort. Because think about it, your average Marine will be, your average infantry will be hiking dozens and dozens of miles over and over and over again. There's a lot of hiking, they carry a lot of weight. And when they hike, we of course also carry our rifles in a ready position, which typically looks something like this. Stock will be pressed up against the shoulder here, muzzle down, diagonal angle, and this is how we walk. Now the thing is, when you have a pistol grip and you hold down here, it is much easier to just hold on to. It lessens overall fatigue in the arm over long periods, because it has to do with the angles of the wrist. Holding on like this over and over again starts to get fatigue into my forearm and my wrist, because my wrist is conked down around like that. Whereas with the pistol grip, it's generally straight in line. You're not holding the rifle up, the rifle is resting on your hand like this. It's much easier to hold on to when you're hiking over long periods. The second reason the military uses it is because many military rifles, specifically our rifles, some other countries like Russia don't do this, but our rifles have their control schemes integrated into the rifle where we can reach them with our firing hand when it's holding onto a pistol grip. So on something like an M16, you've got your fire selector, your safety switch, right there by the trigger group where you can activate it with your thumb. And your magazine release is past the trigger guard where you can activate it with your index finger. And that's designed so that when you're holding onto the rifle with the pistol grip, you can access all of them real easily and quickly, because the military is constantly going from on-safe and off-safe. The military training groups are really adamant about the weapon being put back on safe instantly the moment you're done firing. Now in actual combat, I know that many people don't do this, they don't bother, which makes sense. But nonetheless, for training issues, they advocate the whole on-safe, off-safe thing instantly. So military weapons in the US are typically designed to be able to ergonomically get that fire selector switch and the magazine release with the firing hand. So those are two reasons you have pistol grips: comfort and ergonomics. Now neither of these affect the functionality of the weapon in any way. They do not make the weapon more lethal. They do not make the weapon more effective in combat. So I have to ask, why would such a feature be banned? It makes no sense. I mean, let's address this from a criminal's perspective. If I have a rifle like this and no pistol grip, I can still aim, I can still shoot, I can still do everything I need to. The criminal is not going to be walking and hiking with a lot of weight for very many miles day after day. They don't care about that. I mean, what's a mass shooter going to do? He's going to put the weapons in his car, drive over someplace, walk over, and start shooting. What's a criminal going to do? I mean, criminals typically don't even use rifles, so that's also a non-issue. So really, I think the only reason any of these accessories, particularly the pistol grip, would be regulated is because of fear that mass shooters would use them, and not the regular criminal. And like I just said, the mass shooter pistol grip has no effect on whether or not he is going to be effective with that rifle. The second feature is the forward grip, or the vertical grip, which would go right here. You guys have seen them in movies and games and so on. And that has a few purposes. First purpose is, again, actually comfort. And it goes right back to that kind of hold we have when we hike, because the same principle applies. Holding onto the rifle like this, you can see my wrist has this cant in it, this bend. After a long period of time, that wrist is also going to start getting tired. Whereas with the vertical forward grip, and pistol grips, you hold onto it like that, it is much easier to walk with over long distances. The second reason our military uses them is the current issue forward grip in the Marine Corps, for example, has a folding bipod that is inserted into the forward pistol grip. So anytime you want, you can just pop it out and you've got a bipod for stability. And the third reason is for actual shooting purposes, is a point of reference. The thing is, when you're actually shooting with the pistol grip, you're not supposed to hold on to it like that. You're supposed to hold on to it normally and then kind of rest your hand up against the start of that pistol grip. And the reason for that is point of reference, so anytime you grab the weapon and lift it up, your hand's exactly where it needs to be, because different people have different lengths of pull. And it helps a little bit with control in terms of holding on to the rifle, moving it from left to right. But it's actually an issue of personal preference. A pistol grip will not make you a more effective or faster shooter, or a more accurate shooter. And it really does not help manage recoil to a significant degree either. For example, I personally don't like the forward pistol grips. I wouldn't use them if I didn't have to. I prefer to hold my rifle with the normal stock. There's a different type of forward grip called the angled foregrip, and you can just Google angled foregrip and see how it looks. And that's really designed for a different type of shooting, where you hold the rifle instead of underneath. Well, instead of holding the rifle underneath like this, you would actually put your thumbs, kind of wrap it around the top of the barrel like that, and put your thumbs forward. And that is a more aggressive grip, and the real purpose for that is ease of control and recoil management to keep the shots on target easier to manage with recoil. So would having these features on a rifle make me a more deadly shooter in a mass shooter situation? Again, no. First off, again, the shooter's not hiking long distances, so the comfort issue is not a factor. It's not gonna, and remember, these accessories aren't magic things. It's not like you get one and suddenly you're a better shooter. They factor into training. And a trained shooter will be just as effective without any kind of grip on their weapon at all as with a grip. It's just preferences. Some shooters like them and they train to shoot it that way. Some shooters like me don't, and we train to shoot without them. The end-all difference is if we put two shooters side by side, one with a pistol grip and one without, there will be no difference in performance, given that their level of skill and training is the same. So banning the foregrip is also nonsense. It has no effect on the weapon. Collapsible and telescoping stocks. You can see this as a fixed stock. What a collapsible stock does is it can move forward or back. Most M4 carbines have them, whereas most military M16s are actually fixed stock. So why do we have telescoping stocks, and why did the military use telescoping stocks? The reason is every shooter has a different length of pull. Our arm length is different, our body size is different. So some people are more comfortable having a shorter stock, and some people are more comfortable with a longer stock. So the reason the military particularly prefers telescoping stocks is because the military has so many different people in it. We got short people, tall people, big people, small people. And we need a rifle that can be comfortably used by all those people. And you can't just buy a bunch of rifles with short stocks and a bunch of rifles with longer stocks to give to shorter people and taller people. It's easier to just buy one telescoping stock for everybody, and then the shooter can adjust to their comfort level. Why would a civilian need this? Same reason is many families that own guns, the gun isn't shot by just one person. For example, if I want to teach my kid to shoot, or my wife also shoots that same rifle, or I hunt with my kids, we may have different body sizes. And if I have a stock that's pretty big and I'm comfortable with that, and then I hand it to my teenage son when he goes hunting with me, and it's not that comfortable for him. So a telescoping stock and a family rifle allows different family members to use it to their comfort level. Does it have any effect on the functionality of the rifle whatsoever? The answer is, of course, no. And that comfort issue is also not significant in actually using the weapon in engagement. That is more of a training issue. It doesn't matter if you're comfortable with the length of pull or not, you can still use the weapon just fine. It's just comfort. So the reason Senator Feinstein wanted and still wants to ban telescoping stocks is issues of concealability. She apparently is worried that people can conceal these rifles on their person and then use them in criminal elements or rampant shootings. And again, I say that as a non-factor, because first off, the only shooting incident with long guns that I can think of that concealed weapons on their person was the Columbine shooting. And there may be others, but I'm honestly not certain. Now, and for example, this weapon is a carbine. Many rifles today are carbines. And if you don't know what a carbine is, it is a rifle that is of shorter length. The barrel length is typically shorter. That's what separates the M4 from the M16 forever. It's just overall size. Now, this rifle, now I'm a very short guy. I think I'm maybe 5'5", and this rifle has no fixed stock. But despite that, I could still put on a trench coat like the people at Columbine did and conceal this on my person with a sling. Or hell, I could tie a shoestring around and just hang it off my person, put it under a jacket, and it's done. Whether or not the stock's telescoping is not significantly going to change concealability. It's a difference of a few inches, really. So, let's see. What else was there? Flash suppressors. I'm not sure if these are actually going to be banned or not, but they have been points of contention in the past. What does a flash suppressor do? Now, there's a common misconception that they hide muzzle flash. They do not. If you have a flash suppressor in a rifle and you're shooting at a target, that target can still see the muzzle flash just fine. It does not make the muzzle flash disappear. The purpose of a flash suppressor is to divert the flash away from my eyes when I'm shooting, so that in low light conditions, I can't see my muzzle flash, and my muzzle flash doesn't blind me. And this is highly important for many shooters, including hunters, who do hunt coyotes and so forth in low light conditions, police officers who do have engagements in low light conditions, the military, so on and so forth. So why would a civilian need something like that? Well, if a civilian is defending their home at night with a carbine, and they don't have a flashlight on, or they don't have time on the road to get the lights on, and they're in low light conditions, not pure darkness, of course, you never engage anybody in darkness when you can't see what you're shooting at, but in low light conditions, and say a civilian is defending their home at night, and they shoot, and suddenly the muzzle flash blinds them, they don't know if they hit the guy, they're not going to keep shooting, they are at a disadvantage. This does not matter to the criminal, however, because criminals don't care about what they hit. They don't care about precision. They don't care about accuracy. If a criminal is shooting and he can't see what he's shooting at, he's already a criminal. He can just keep shooting. He doesn't care if he hits somebody or not. Whereas as civilians, we have to make every single shot count. We can't afford to spray and pray blindly. A fire suppressor is actually much more important to a civilian than it ever would be to a criminal. So regulating that also makes no sense. Suppressors. Suppressors are not federally banned. They are illegal in many states with a certain license. And honestly, I can't think of any criminal or mass shooting whatsoever that ever used a suppressor or even a homemade suppressor. It is relatively easy to make homemade suppressors to make the firearms quieter. I mean, the first thing that you may want to note is that suppressors do not silence weapons. They don't make that little pew sound that you hear in Hollywood. That is not what they sound like. They're not very quiet either. The thing is, something like the key issue here is that the sound that a gunshot makes is caused by two factors. The first off is the gases just coming out and expanding. That's what makes the primary noise. And there's also the sound of the action cycling. Now the second factor is the speed of the round. It's a supersonic boom. Most rifle ammunition and much of pistol ammunition is supersonic. So when we use the barrel, it creates a supersonic boom. That's why you hear that little crack, and then you hear that echo back. It's kind of like flat bamboo on stick crack. So even if you have a suppressor on a rifle or a pistol that shoots supersonic ammo, it's still going to make that supersonic boom. It's still going to be loud as hell. The only difference is it's going to be relatively quieter. But it's not going to be so quiet that you can't hear it or you can't discern that's a gunshot. It's not like in the movies where you walk into a building and go click, 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 and everybody dies and nobody hears it. Or like in No Country for Old Men when the guy had a suppressor on a shotgun, which is impossible, by the way. You can't suppress a shotgun, really. Well, practically. And he just shot up a bunch of people in the room and nobody heard the shots. That is, again, ridiculous. Anybody in that motel would have heard them. So, point being, suppressors are not as, well, Hollywoodish as Hollywood would have us to believe. What use do they serve for the civilian? And the answer for that is, first off, generally just hearing protection. You know, I mean, we do have hearing pro, but some people are more concerned with it. Some people have shooting ranges in the outdoors, and they have neighbors living maybe like half a mile away and so on, and they don't want to create a hell of a lot of noise to just disturb the neighbors. So really, it's just a personal use for comfort on shooting ranges, in the wild, so on. And another point is, many hunters, including myself, we do not hunt with hearing protection on, because we don't shoot that much in hunting, and with maybe a few rounds, and we don't worry about it. But that still does have an effect. The reason we don't wear hearing protection when hunting is because we need to hear our environment. We can't just deafen ourselves and not pay attention to everything, because we're never going to get anything that way. But that cumulatively, firing during hunting will still degrade our hearing, so having a suppressor on while hunting is a benefit. I can't honestly see any criminal use for suppressors. Like, the quietest you can get a suppressor to be is a wet suppressor, where you have to actually get some line grease or water put into the suppressor, which only lasts a few shots. You need a subsonic round, and then you need a pistol specially designed to be silent, like the Navy Hush Puppy. And those are really quiet. Those will go like a little bit louder, but those are quiet as hell. But nobody ever used them. Criminals don't use them. Honestly, unless you're concerned with stopping professional hitmen, I can't see any purpose for regulating a suppressor. I think those are pretty much all the features that the federal assault weapons bans go over. So I think I'm going to wrap the video up here. If you have any questions about these features, just leave a comment. I'll be happy to address them. And next video, maybe I'm going to start going over magazine capacities. So thank you for watching, as always.